Welcome into Turnkey on Queen City News Plus, your go-to show for everything real estate. We talk about the latest market trends, do's and don'ts of the industry, and provide expert advice on navigating this dynamic landscape that we call home. Today, we're going to talk about AI, its role in real estate, the pros of it, but also maybe some of the cons. And to help me do that is a woman with quite possibly the coolest name ever, Joan B. Good. And she is the president of the Canopy Realtor Association. Joan, thank you so much for coming on Turnkey.
Thank you so much, Morgan, for having me today. I'm so excited, especially that I maybe will learn a little bit about my golf swing. And that's a conversation for another time.
We were talking about that before the show started. I played college golf, past tense, of course. Might be a little rusty, but that's the game of golf, right?
That's exactly right. You only remember your best shot.
Yes, and that's why you keep coming back for more.
That's exactly right.
Joan, so Canopy Realtor Association, what is that for people who are not real estate agents? What is that?
Sure. Thank you for that question. And it is a little confusing. So, Canopy Realtor Association is the parent company of our Association for Realtors and our multiple listing service, or better known as MLS. And you don't have to be a realtor to be in the MLS. Yes, you have to be a real estate agent, but you don't have to be a realtor.
What's the difference, real estate agent versus realtor?
A member of the National Association of Realtors is a realtor.
Okay.
But any licensed real estate agent can join our MLS,
Okay.
right? And that's where all the listings reside, under the multiple listing service. That's where a consumer would go for information in regards to housing.
Okay. So you are we've got like the top dog in the studio today. This is great. So we're talking about AI in real estate. 10 years ago, did you ever think that this would be a conversation?
Never. And now you can't talk about any industry without saying AI.
Are real estate agents going to get replaced?
Absolutely not. And that's the question everyone's asking.
Yeah.
No, it's only going to enhance our industry. And quite truthfully, Morgan, it's already embedded in most of the tools that we use. And we've been using it for a while. If you think about AI as an enhancement, as an improvement, we've used it for a long time in our photos, in our portraits of ourselves. We use it constantly. But it will never replace, and this is a great example you're showing now, but it will never replace relationships, which for consumers drive revenue. Because people buy from people that they want to work with.
Right.
And you need that human interface. So right here, this is a great example. She's showing you vacant homes that could be staged, right? And that is an improvement. If it is a occupied home that is vacant and we stage it, we do have to state in our MLS, there are guidelines and rules that state, okay, this is awesome, but that's not how it looks. This is enhanced via AI.
There's got to be that transparency so that someone knows this isn't, a true depiction of this room, right?
Exactly.
This furniture, when you show up, it's not going to be there if it's enhanced with AI. Now, with the AI staging and the regular staging, do you think AI is going to replace stagers who actually bring in furniture and put it into the home and stage the home? What do you think is the difference there between those two different approaches?
Sure. That's a great question. And that's kind of what's on the back of everyone's mind. So staging companies do a phenomenal job. You see them a lot in new construction, very, very often, where you're having herds and herds of people coming through because new construction, their model home is like a show house, right? No one's living there.
Right.
The doors aren't even on all the interior doors. Typically, people are just walking through. But when someone's physically living in a home or they have vacated it, but they still own it, their insurance, all of that, virtual staging is a great option. You can imagine, and some of these you can even say, that's not my style. I'm more traditional. So you can change it to your type of furniture.
Right.
Whereas real staging, that's going to be the designer, the stager's idea of what looks good in the space.
Okay, so I've got a prime example of that, and let's pull this up. And this is, on Zillow, so anyone can do this. But this home Here is the original picture, and this is you can choose your style to Scandinavian, industrial, mid-century, and then look at what that room would look like with this furniture. Do you love it or do you hate it? What do you
So
think?
I love it because the first place that consumers shop and their first view is online.
Mhm.
So we want to make, as agents, as practitioners in this industry, we want to make it as easy as possible to view online. People start looking 6 months online before they're ready to actually physically go into any properties. They're kicking the tires, sort of,
Mhm.
right? They're thinking, we might move. That would be great. What does it look like in my price range, where I
Mhm.
can afford, the
Mhm.
area I want to be, close to work? Where are the schools, right? All of that information and having the ability, like you're doing right now, to click different styles, they can sort of see themselves in the home.
I think that's the biggest hang up when you're looking at homes. It's okay, there's someone else's personal pictures maybe still on the wall. How do you visualize your life in what's currently someone else's space?
That's
And it's a
exactly right.
challenge.
It's a challenge, and you really have to see yourself in there
Mhm.
before you can mentally start to move,
Mhm.
right? You have to visualize, well, this is how I like my kitchen set up. I
Right.
can see myself cooking dinner for my family. I can see us hanging out playing mahjong.
Mhm. Yeah, which has become a very popular game
Exactly.
lately.
Had to throw that in there.
So, I have seen I wanna pull up this house, and these are all, like, homes in our area. Um, I've also seen this recently, not just staging in the living room, but giving people an idea of what the home could look like with just completely changing the exterior. What are your thoughts on something like that?
So you have to be very careful. That is extreme staging.
Mhm.
You cannot add construction that isn't there because that is deceptive to the consumer.
Mhm.
If you, for example, added a door that really isn't there, it's just a wall, and a consumer comes in and says, "Where is this
Where's the
door?"
door?
Right? That's deceptive.
Mhm.
And that's basically false advertisement.
Right. Well, and
Enhancing,
the agent is the one who can get in trouble there, the one who
absolutely.
lists it, because then you're violating, one of the rules of the industry.
That's exactly right, and you're violating specific MLS rules because new rules are created around AI because of this.
Mhm.
Because it's new and everyone's talking about it and everyone's playing with it. It's a great new tool, but it's
Mhm.
only as good as the information that you provide it. So if you say, "Make this house better," no limits, could go crazy.
I mean, there will be people in the front lawn playing bags and
Exactly.
AI has its own imagination of what looks good, right?
Absolutely.
We've talked about where AI can be used and how it can benefit.
Mhm.
You mentioned one of the ways that it can, hurt. I don't know if it would hurt a sale necessarily, but kind of deceive the buyer with things that aren't really there. What do you feel like are some of the kind of things that people should just be aware of and be conscious of with the evolution of AI and making sure that maybe particularly on the real estate agent side that they're not getting in trouble? What are some of the cons that you've seen with AI in this industry?
That's a great question. So, we've talked a lot about staging, but the other side of the coin is the seller side. So, if you just use AI generated market analysis, that's going to be on paper only.
Mhm.
What an agent knows that an AI agent, and of course they're called agents, but what a realtor, which is a real estate agent, what they know that an AI agent doesn't is high tension power lines in the backyard.
Mm.
You're in a floodplain. The street is at the very bottom of the hill, so they always have a basement that floods.
Mm.
If you just look at it on paper, it's going to be square footage and bedrooms and baths. And there's so much more involved and so much human touch in pricing a property. So, where the disservice lies is on that seller because they may believe their price is exponentially, possibly higher than any buyer walking through would think
Right.
that it should be priced, and also realize that real estate agents are are taking buyers around. So not only are they listing homes, they're also taking buyers around. So they hear the psychology and they know what they're thinking
Mm-hmm.
and what buyers are looking for. And that's invaluable information for a seller.
Which sometimes that changes too, it evolves. When you first start looking for a home, you might have, your must-have list might some of those might actually just be a wish list item and not something that you need to have, and that you kind of adjust over time when you look at more homes.
That's true.
Um,
I sometimes call it the can't sleep at night. So, right? If I don't get this, I won't be able to sleep at night.
right.
Or if I get this and I really didn't want it.
Mhm.
So you have to know that.
Yeah. So, do you see instances or hear of instances where agents solely rely on AI to create their list? And you mentioned power lines as one of them, and miss those things.
We have seen it. So a lot of times, unfortunately, consumers and agents on both sides of the coin forget where the market really is. So they're relying on information that, oh my goodness, this is an unprecedented real estate market after COVID.
Hmm.
Well, COVID was 6 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to think about COVID because it was like 20% appreciation. It was, I
Exactly.
mean, for someone who bought before COVID
Hmm.
and then refinance, maybe they still live in their home at a 2.5, 3% interest rate, or they saw that appreciation and they sold and they made great money. It's nice to think about it, but you're right. It's kind of a long time ago now.
It's a long time ago and it's in the past.
Hmm.
And what's so funny is the mindset.
Hmm.
So sometimes sellers will think we're in 2021 and buyers' mindset might be 2008
Hmm.
when the market crashed.
Hmm.
There's that extreme. So you have to rely on the realtor to really bring it in
Hmm.
and say, this is where we are today. Because you're right, it's fluid. It changes month to month.
Hmm.
What's happening in the world really impacts what happens in real estate locally.
Hmm. So, thinking about where AI is headed, we're in this moment where people are experimenting with it. Um, where do you see AI's place in real estate?
So it's incredibly beneficial for tasks. If you are wanting to create a comparative market analysis, that initial number of this is what's happening, micro market down to neighborhood, down to
Mhm.
streets. So you start with that. But what's key utilizing AI is the prompts. So AI is just that machine learning, and it
Mm,
learns by what you ask it. So I see realtors utilizing it in their day to day tasks, things that would take us so long to create. If you have the proper prompts, which is so important, you can get graphs and numbers to go hand in hand with the knowledge that you have
mhm.
very, very quickly.
Okay. Could you give me an example of that if you were to kind of create a prompt? Mm,
100%.
yeah.
So this is just recently. So I'm working on a listing appointment,
Mhm.
and I said, here's the data from MLS.
Mhm.
Can you put this in a graph to show where the pricing lies? So initially, the prompt came with all the data. So that's crazy and too much.
Right.
Didn't make
Overwhelming.
sense. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. So which is great. So you just learn how to prompt. So then you go from there and you say, no, just these specific streets. This is newer construction,
Mm,
right? This is better. I know this street sells for a higher price than this street. So when you're giving these prompts, then the data comes back to you. And then you ask the question, okay, can you make this like you were talking to a fifth grader? I use that all the time. So you don't
that's
want
what
to,
we do on the news too. We really break it down. We
you
we
have
want you to
to.
understand it. Yeah.
We want you to understand it and simplify it.
Mhm.
So I asked for a graph, and the graph was crazy and very confusing. I said, no, a simplified graph with small markers in $10,000, right? Just so
Mhm.
you can see where the movement is and what's been happening. And then I asked for historical data because history will tell us what's going to happen in the future,
Mhm.
right? So I put all that in. This would have taken me hours and probably 45 minutes. I had enough data then to work on what I needed to work on.
Mm,
And that's real time. And it saves agents from having to sit in front of a computer because if we're not in front of clients, right, we're not
that's on
selling
homes.
homes.
Yeah. It's so
Exactly.
interesting that, it's like the workflow has changed. But, there's also on the flip side, the 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 other side of it, they understand that workflow has become easier, right?
Exactly.
And so, do you feel like clients also expect quicker answers and quicker info because it's possible?
Oh,
So
this
there's more
is
pressure. Yeah.
absolutely, because instant gratification is where we are
Yeah,
today
yeah, that's
for
true.
everything.
Yeah.
If the news you read at 8 this morning is already old,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so this helps us. And you asked about replacing agents. I feel like it will enhance, not replace, but the assistant role is very, very different because a lot of the tasks that you might ask an admin or an assistant to do, AI can create very, very
Mhm.
quickly. And there are tools for realtors to use that help that.
I don't know if you've heard of this story, but, there was a man in Florida who recently sold it was like this viral story. He sold his home only using AI because he wanted to save on the commission.
Hmm.
And and so he entered the prompts, "Here's my house. How much should I sell it for?" The contract, he had AI help him to kind of write up the contract, and he did end up selling it, I think, within a month. I mean, he sold it pretty quickly. It was under contract within a few days. And it was all about the positives of he did it. Um, what would be your counter argument to a situation like that, being that you're in the real estate industry and you want people to trust and rely on you to help them through that process?
So that's a great story. And it should have started with Once Upon a Time, like a lot of Disney movies.
Okay, why so?
Well, the reason I say that is there's so many pitfalls,
Yeah.
and you really have to understand this is people's typically largest expense, the most expensive thing they will buy. This is
Mhm.
where they put their heads at night.
Yeah.
It's where they raise their families,
Mhm.
right? So there are a lot of disclosures, there are a lot
Yeah.
of encroachments. And in the state of North Carolina, we are not attorneys. We can't have AI just write up this
Right.
contract.
Yep.
Many things to consider. There's title work to consider. I mentioned encroachments. There might be a sewer pipe under that guy's house, right?
Mhm.
And AI wouldn't have disclosed that, then he's responsible for that.
Mhm.
We, as realtors, we make certain we've looked at the deed, we've looked at the taxes, there isn't any cloud on title, and we have experienced attorneys helping us with that as well.
Mhm.
So that is a great once upon a time story, but there's so many pitfalls that I think the consumer could fall into as well as the seller
Mhm.
because they could be liable for anything that was not disclosed.
Right. And they didn't go through the 90 plus hours of courses to kind of understand all of that and even what to look for in order to disclose. And I think you're right. It's you can get maybe a good price estimate of what you should list your home for, and you can get the data from AI and have a good understanding of what, you know, value your home it has. Uh but it's like selling your home off market, but using a little bit more information through AI to do it. Um, you still run the risk of some box not being checked.
That's exactly right. And what your realtor will do is advocate for you and protect you.
Mhm,
Because let's say through AI, you get multiple offers and you think the highest one is the best one, right? You
mhm,
just look at the dollars. That isn't always the case. You
mhm,
definitely want to look at the financing. That's what realtors do. You want to see if there are any concessions. There's a lot going on within a contract, much more than just that top
For
price.
people who don't understand concessions, what do you mean by that?
Absolutely. Thank you. So to clarify that, concessions might be seller paid closing cost. What if there's something in repairs,
Mhm,
right? It
mhm,
could be many things. They may want all of your personal property. They
mhm.
may want your washer and dryer, your
Well,
refrigerator.
if you don't read through the contract and
Exactly.
see that they wanted you to leave the refrigerator and you're like, "Well, I was gonna take it with me," then there you're at kind of a
Then you're buying a refrigerator for someone else,
yeah,
right?
especially if you've already signed the
That's
contract. So yeah,
exactly right.
there's a lot of stuff that can be put in those contracts that if you don't read it thoroughly, you're about to learn a hard lesson.
That's exactly right.
So we have a little bit more time. on this show. Is there anything else you wanted to address about AI? Or can we get into kind of like state of the market in the Charlotte area?
Sure, we can do both. So, just quickly, AI, it's a great tool. We all need to learn. I think we'll see it more and more in our industry, and we need to get ahead of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think consumers and realtors need to know what's out there because consumers and realtors that don't utilize it will be left behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. And I mean, it's getting to the point that AI is integrating with, platforms as
yes,
well. And you can search for a home using ChatGPT now. So it's just going to keep evolving. And just like anything else, social media, you just have to evolve with it because you can't fight the tide on that.
that's right.
State of the market in the Charlotte area, the greater Charlotte area.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing? We've had kind of a bit of a chaotic month, it seems. But what are you seeing? Just the buyer and the seller sentiment.
So the good news is Q4 2025, I think everybody was settling in. Consumer confidence was really, really low.
Mhm.
No one was really ready to jump. And you brought it up earlier, and it's so true. Everyone's sitting on a lot of equity, everyone's sitting on low interest rates.
Mhm.
So they were really not moving last year unless they had to, right? Something,
Job change or
job
right.
change, or had children went to college,
Mhm.
something changed in their life. We are seeing an uptick in Q1 in our area. Now, what's changing is we had that strong seller's market forever in unprecedented COVID years, bringing that up again. And now we're becoming a more balanced market, which is great for buyers and sellers. So homes are on the market a little longer, 45 to 52 days, depending on where you are in the city.
Mhm.
And that's good because consumers need to have choices. They don't need the pressure of in 15 minutes, you've got to decide where you're going to live,
Mhm.
right?
Where a listing appointment turns into or a showing appointment turns into an open house because there are so many people coming in and
That's
out.
exactly right. And you just fight your way in for your little piece of time. Um, it's good. It feels healthy. Prices are, we're seeing an increase year over year, not huge like the COVID years,
Mhm.
but 1 to 3%. And that's just generalizing. It
Mhm.
depends on where you are in the
Right.
community. New construction is also up, which is fantastic.
Right.
So overall, very, very positive.
Where do you think it goes from here? Do you think it's gonna completely shift into a buyer's market eventually, or do you think we're gonna stay in this just kind of balanced area of real estate?
So real estate is cyclical
Yeah.
and all the time it's constantly fluid and moving. We have been in a strong seller's market for so very long, 10 plus years. And what we call a balanced market in real estate is 6 months inventory supply. And I can tell you to a seller that does not feel balanced, right? It feels like a buyer's.
You want to sell your home right away. You
wanna
can't blame
sell
someone.
That's
Yeah.
right, 6 months sounds
Yeah.
like a very long time. So I do think there's a shift in the market, but we are so fortunate that we are constantly rated as one of the top cities to move to by many, many different publications.
Mhm.
And because of that, we are still affordable city. Our climate is mild.
Mhm.
Many, many businesses are moving here. Jobs are moving here. 147 people a day are moving to Charlotte. So we still have a robust real estate industry. And I think that will remain.
Mhm.
Nothing's changing in Charlotte for the bad. It's just getting better.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be.
It is a great place to live, and I think we have so much to offer here, and that's why everyone wants to be in the Carolinas.
That's
because
right.
It's great,
It is beautiful.
minus the pollen. That's the one thing. The one thing.
That's right. That's why she has yellow in the blue room.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm just dressing the part for the time of
That's
season.
right.
Joan, thank you so much for your expertise and educating everyone on the topics, but not only that, but also kind of the state of the industry and the market in Charlotte. Really appreciate it. If someone wants to find you or follow you on social media, of course,
Right.
how can they do that?
Joan Good at Joan Good and on Facebook as well.
Mhm.
I am not really that's probably the two best places, also on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
obviously. Yes.
Well, Joan, thank you so much for coming on Turnkey. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
To everyone else out there, thank you so much for watching this episode of Turnkey on Queen City News Plus. We'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.